When my grandmother's will was read, every member of the family inherited a luxurious house and stacks of cash, while I was given nothing but an old rusty key. My relatives laughed at me and mocked my inheritance. Without saying a word, I took that key to the lock my grandmother had secretly told me about. And the very next moment, the color drained from everyone's faces. Grandma's will was being read, and I sat quietly in the far corner of the room. A cold December evening settled over Chicago, with light snow drifting past the windows. Outside, winter covered everything in white. Inside, greed warmed every face in the room. I had always believed Grandma was a fair woman, but I never imagined that true justice could arrive so quietly that, at first, it looked like a joke. The attorney began reading the will. To my daughter Deborah, I leave my lakefront house. Deborah's face lit up with excitement. To my son Richard, I leave $200,000 in cash. Richard exchanged a satisfied smile with his wife. To my grandson Eric, I leave my investment portfolio. With every name, the whispers of celebration grew louder. Then the attorney looked at me. And to my granddaughter Olivia. The room fell silent. I leave my old rusty key. That was it. A single rusty key. Richard burst into laughter. Looks like Mom forgot she was giving away an inheritance, not cleaning out the garage. Deborah smirked. Maybe it opens an old storage shed. The room filled with laughter. I simply closed my hand around the key. I knew my grandmother never kept anything without a reason. My own life had never depended on an inheritance. I worked the morning shift at a neighborhood diner. Every paycheck disappeared almost as soon as it arrived. Rent, electricity, my credit card payments, car insurance, and health insurance swallowed nearly everything. My 10-year-old daughter Ava needed school supplies, and her asthma medication wasn't cheap. Some weeks, groceries from Walmart were all I could afford. That was why I had never asked Grandma for money. I only spent time with her. I picked up her prescriptions. I drove her to Lincoln Park so she could feed the ducks. 2 weeks before she passed away, she held my hand. "Olivia," she whispered, "when everything is over, don't throw away that key. The lock is where people look every day, but never truly notice." That was all she said. As soon as the reading of the will ended, everyone celebrated their inheritance. I quietly drove to Grandma's old house. The porch was covered in fresh snow. I searched the basement. Nothing. Then I noticed an old metal cabinet in the garage. For years, everyone had assumed it was nothing more than a place to store paint cans. A rusty padlock hung from the handle. I inserted the key. First, nothing. Then I heard a soft click. The cabinet door slowly opened. There was no mountain of gold. No movie-style treasure. Only 3 thick files, a folder, a USB drive, and a handwritten letter from Grandma. My hands trembled. The letter read, "If you're reading this, it means everyone else saw the value of things, but not the truth behind them. Open the files." They weren't property deeds. They were financial records covering the last 15 years. Richard had secretly transferred thousands of dollars from Grandma's bank account into his own company. Deborah had used Grandma's credit cards to pay for personal expenses. Eric had taken out loans using Grandma's name. Every receipt, every bank statement, every signature, everything had been carefully preserved. There was one final legal document. 6 months before her death, Grandma had worked with an attorney to prepare a lawsuit, but her illness had taken away the time she needed to finish it. At the bottom of the letter, she had written, "Olivia, you can burn these papers if you want. But if you want justice, take them to my attorney." The next morning I did exactly that. The attorney carefully reviewed every document. Within weeks, legal proceedings began. There were no dramatic arrests, no television cameras, no overnight miracles. The investigation took months. Bank records were examined. Financial audits were completed. Every document was verified. Eventually, the court ruled that the money taken from Grandma had to be repaid, and her estate would be redistributed according to the law. The entire process took nearly a year. During that time, I continued working at the diner while attending evening classes at the local community college. Eventually, I earned my accounting degree. Soon afterward, I found a job at a small financial firm. When the final court decision came, I didn't receive a mansion. I didn't become a millionaire. But I did receive the portion of Grandma's estate that legally belonged to me, and it was enough to pay off my credit card debt, start a college savings account for Ava, and finally build an emergency fund. A few months later, I bought groceries without using a credit card for the first time in years. I no longer panicked every time I paid for Ava's asthma inhaler. My health insurance premiums were paid on time. One evening, while sitting in Millennium Park with my daughter, sharing a cup of hot chocolate, I finally understood what Grandma had really left me. The true inheritance was never the rusty key. The true inheritance was the courage to protect the truth, because that is worth far more than any fortune built on lies.